The Yankees right now, I'll check the score. They were down 3-0. They switched up the lineup. They have Urshela in the cleanup spot. Your thoughts on what they're doing with their lineup? Still 3-0 right now, bottom 7.
Yeah, I think the lineup's been really tough for Aaron Boone and the Yanks. It's hard to find a lineup that's going to be successful when basically the whole team's hitting under 200. I mean, entering today, DJ LeMahieu hitting 300, Aaron Judge barely over 220. And it's tough for the Aaron Boone and the Yankees to find a lineup that works. Obviously, you mentioned Gio Urshela. He's in the 4-hole tonight, had the big homer last night, and then the RBI base hit. So he definitely is a guy that the Yanks are relying on, but he hasn't been on every day. Gio Urshela has come up big in almost every Yankee win. He's been the guy getting the base hit and scoring the runs, getting the RBIs. But outside of him, it's been a lot of strikeouts and a lot of 0 days for this Yankee lineup. And you've got to start hitting the panic button, I think, because Aaron Hicks, Clint Frazier, Giancarlo Stanton, even Gleyber Torres have all been guys that have not produced at the levels that the Yankees are expecting them to produce. And I mentioned this on the past show, the pitching is always going to be up in the air for the Yankees. Outside of Cole, it's going to be whatever it's going to be. But when your identity is lost and you're striking out and not hitting homers and you're striking out and not hitting with guys on base, that's when it's like, all right, who even are we anymore? And I think that's a little bit of where the Yankees are. They've lost their identity and they're searching for it right now.
Let me push back on that. Let me give you a little devil's advocate. I can't believe that you're asking the "who are we" question right now. You think this team has lost its identity?
I think
that's a slight overreaction, Mike.
I think it's the Yankee fan in me where I'm expecting out of the gates we're top of the AL East. It also might be because the team in Boston has had the best record in our division. So there's pressure in that sense too, but it's hard watching this Yankee team and continuing to ground into double plays and strike out with runners on base. And the production from guys that are getting big money, like Aaron Hicks, who's on a 7-year, $70 million deal, Giancarlo Stanton, who's on a max contract for Miami. These guys who you're paying money to are not producing. I think if you're a Mets fan, Lindor's the only guy that's got real money on that team that's where you're expecting him to produce a lot. I think Conforto's expecting a contract, and there are other guys in the mix there, but I think for the Yankees, there's a lot of money on these players, and I think there puts a little more pressure that these guys got to start producing.
Yeah, but it's not your money. I understand you're saying they're there long term.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You're locked into them more in more of a sense.
But so you're nervous. You're terrified.
I'm not terrified. I think the Yankees are still going to be in the hunt for the wild card and probably the division, but it's just a matter of when you turn it around and when you get on that hot streak. And I think it's each day you're waiting for that turnaround, and it's the same old story. It's been, they're only 6-10 heading into tonight, but it's still a little worrisome if you're a Yankee fan. I think there's some cause for concern.
Right. The thing is, though, this is so Yankee fan. I can't even believe this. This is what I hear all the time from Yankee guys. Just this is like totally normal stuff. If you're a Met fan, you're so familiar with whether it's a slow start at the gate or a bad month of May or a bad month of May, June, July, and August all put together. You get very used to the losing. So I got to tell you, this is way too early to be pressing the panic button. And just take it from me. Take it from a sincere piece of advice. You have every right to complain, but I just can't handle Yankee fans on the radio who can't understand that their team is going to get it together. This is an excellent team, top to bottom, and you guys will get it together. I hope you don't, but you will. You will. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I will say there are definitely people out there calling for Aaron Boone's job and people who are really worried. I think those people are foolish because as much as this Yankee lineup has not performed, I don't think it's at the fault of Aaron Boone at all. I think these guys, the players are there. They're good on paper, but they just have not put it together for a good product on the field. I think there's some causes for concern with the Yankees because guys like Judge and Gary, who are going to have contracts, they're going to have to come up soon. And while you have him on the team, maybe one of those guys, I doubt Judge leaves, but Gary's a guy you might let go, and you're hoping for them to have production right now. And I think when you don't see him start off the season hot, I mean, everyone was buzzing about Gary. He had 2 or 3 games start of the year where his bat looked really hot, and since then he's dropped down to 200. But those both those guys have yet to really show that they're going to be the young guys to carry this team forward. So I think when there's a lack of leadership on the team and a lack of veterans, and the young guys are yet to turn it around in the beginning of the year, it's a little bit worrisome, because you worry that maybe this team is not as good as we thought it was. I mean, they were World Series contenders. People were calling Yankee Dodgers World Series at the beginning of the year. And when the Dodgers have looked legit and the Yankees have not, then it starts to think, are we really that level? And I think Yankee fans maybe have to put in perspective that you don't have to be the Dodgers to be a competitor in the American League or in baseball. And maybe they aren't the Dodgers, but they can maybe compete with the White Sox. They can compete with the Athletics and these lower level teams that aren't maybe that tier 1 Dodgers, Padres.
Oh, I mean, it's never been built up to be, you're not trying to beat the White Sox. You are trying to beat the Dodgers at the end of the day. You are trying to become World Series champions. And how many years do we push back that timeline? It's definitely getting to a point where you're saying it's got to be World Series soon, or else it's bust for this whole experiment, because you built it up. And you mentioned Aaron Boone. I think it's crazy after 15 games to be calling for the manager's head. I would never think about it. But Aaron Boone, to me, has not proven himself at all. And I say that from the outside perspective of when they fired Joe Girardi, I thought it was the craziest thing ever. I thought it was just bananas. And they did it. And they brought in Aaron Boone, and you said, defer to Cashman because this guy knows what he's doing. He always has. So I said, we'll see. Maybe they just know when it's time to bring a new voice in. And so kind of the timeline started right there when you brought in Aaron Boone, and he hasn't gotten the result that you've wanted. And here you are. I see a headline here that says 6 potential managerial candidates for Brian Cashman's job. That to me is crazy stuff. But you do have to ask the Aaron Boone question at a certain point. I don't think it's now, but maybe after the month of April wraps up, if we're midway through May and we're still having this conversation, then my tone changes a little bit about the managerial situation.
Yeah, I think Boone has never been the guy for the job, in my opinion. I thought it was Girardi. Like you, I mean, Girardi is still taking the same young core of guys farther than Boone has. Game 7, 2017 ALCS. Boone hasn't gotten past Game 6 in the same series. So I think from that standpoint, Girardi was the guy that was going to be on top of these guys. He was going to make most of the calls, and he probably had more of an old school way of coaching them. Aaron Boone clearly is more hands-off, easygoing, kind of an anything goes kind of attitude. Obviously, he's still their bosses, but it seems like he's more loose with these players. And it's no secret that Cashman's making a lot of these calls from the front office. So I think in that sense, that's never been the right way for the Yankees to go. Obviously, it's what Cashman wants, but I don't think it's the right direction. On the other hand, I don't think messing around with the team, changing managers is ever the right move, especially when you've got a good core like this. I think the players got to go out there and perform. And Aaron Boone can't put on batting gloves and go 3 for 4 tomorrow. But Aaron Judge could do that, and Gleyber Torres could do that. So I think the focus should be on the players right now and not who's coaching them and putting them in the game. It's up to Aaron Hicks to get hits. It's up to Aaron Judge to get hits. It's up to Gio Urshela to keep up getting hits. And I think to stay off the manager talk is a smart thing for Cashman and anybody in the Yankees organization, and focus on the players right now. That's the biggest thing they can do.
Oh, yeah. It's only coming from the outside. I mean, if he was he's got to you got to inspire confidence and stay the course at this point. Because, again, it's way too early to be talking about a shakeup. And this is all hypothetical because maybe they do right the ship. But just looking back at that Girardi thing, it felt like a moment where Cashman's pride just grew a little bit too much. And he said, I'm going to make a shift after Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. Is one of the stranger things. It seemed like he had made that decision before the year started and said, I'm going to pull the trigger regardless of what we do this year. And I don't know what message that sends to a clubhouse. I disagree with you on the principle and correct me if you didn't say this, but that you just never get rid of a manager mid-season. I don't think that I don't think that's a good principle, because if it really gets that bad and you're the New York Yankees and you set out to win a World Series, you do it. You do it. And what message does that send to the clubhouse? It sends a message that we're not tolerating this. We want to win. And I think players would respond to that. So I think, if you get to that point, and it's very hypothetical, where you're in the middle of May and you're saying, if we make a move now, we can right the ship, then I do it. I absolutely do it.
Yeah, I disagree there, because I just see a move at the end of the season being more logical. I mean, this is Aaron Boone's been with this group for 2 years and is going to his third year. I mean, this is a team that's had playoff success, maybe not to the extent of Joe Girardi, but it's been there. So I think from that perspective, I would wait and see how he handles the guys. But I think that a move at the end of the year maybe makes sense if you don't get to where you thought you were going to be by the end of the season. So that's where I would make a move. I'm not saying Aaron Boone is the guy or should never be taken out, but I think that at a middle of May move or an all-star break move to fire him and bring in a new guy is too much going on for these players. And I think they should just focus on performing right now rather than behind the scenes.
Well, look, I mean, we've gotten swept up in it, in the Yankee pessimism, if we're talking about the manager and making a change on April 21st. So that is pretty crazy stuff. But optimism on the Mets, a lot of pessimism on the Yankees. I say pump the brakes on it for now. But if it keeps getting bad, you gotta then you press the panic button. Maybe you make a move. Maybe you pull the trigger.